there was a reason for investing in good government in order to keep up the British name of providing a good legal system and the kind of prosperity that would attract more traders and more people would come and invest there and use Singapore as a base for further trade. All these things, I think one thing leads up to another. And by providing good government, everybody would make more money.
Singapore was no longer run by company employees, but professional civil servants, imbued with a Victorian sense of morality their predecessors never had. For the first time, British officials learned to read and speak in Chinese. After half a century running the island, they could at last communicate with the people they were governing.
And the new governors were not just businessmen anymore. They were graduates of Oxford and Cambridge. They were people with a mission. It was an imperial mission in which the best of British civilization, so to speak, would be offered to these people who have so much to learn.
From the late 1870s, there was a concerted effort to clean up the squalid image of sin galore. Opium was officially discouraged, prostitution was regulated, and secret societies were banned. Chinese businessmen like Whampoa had to disavow their links with the criminal underworld and became part of the British establishment. Singapore would never again be the wild eastern town of its early years. And its traders would never rule the roost as they once did. Today, Singapore's latest tourist attraction, the reverse bungee, sits on the very spot where Whampoa's riverside warehouse used to be. In 1887, to celebrate Queen Victoria's Jubilee, a statue was built honoring the city's founder, Sir Stamford Raffles. In the same year, the world-famous hotel that bears his name was also opened. The epitome of colonial sophistication in the East. By this time, Raffles had been dead for 60 years, but his little child had finally come of age.
If he had been there to witness the unveiling of his own statue, I think he would have been largely very pleased with what he saw. The prosperity of the place and the fact that it was this great hub of trade. The general freedom that people had to live as they liked. That would have pleased him too.
This is some of the oldest surviving cinefilm of Singapore, shot at the beginning of the 20th century. It shows a cosmopolitan city alive with the energy and enterprise of its people. It's also an orderly, efficient city, as Raffles had hoped it would be. But how much of Raffles' vision is still alive today? Modern Singapore is a 21st century Asian metropolis, a world away from the coolies and bumboats of old. What are today's Singaporeans to make of their colonial past? Singapore of old was the creation of Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles. But the modern city-state has been the work of another man, Lee Kuan Yew. In 1959, he took control of Singapore, leading it out of the British Empire and towards independence. But how would Lee's Singapore deal with the legacy of its colonial past? One of the first decisions the independent government made was that the statue of Raffles, built for Queen Victoria's Jubilee, should remain in the centre of town. Modern Singapore would be built on the same foundations as Raffles' little child.
The legacy is that of connectedness with the world. That was what made Singapore get off the ground. From a barely inhabited island, infertile, of no consequence to the world, he made it an important hub. And that we must keep up, because otherwise it would sink back to a fishing village.
Raffles left behind the importance of free trade. That principle has been upheld by the British government, by the independent Singapore government throughout. That was never touched.
Raffles' presence is still felt in modern Singapore. Across the street from the old black Victorian statue, a new white replica now stands.
It's refreshing in some ways in this anti-colonial age that you get the not only the acceptance of this figure, but almost a glorification. Singaporeans often seem to think that their founder was a lily-white god almost.
But in one fundamental way, modern Singapore is very different from the Singapore of Raffles. The flag that flies overhead is no longer the Union Jack, and its people are no longer colonial subjects.
Raffles could not imagine the British actually gone, with people who were brought here running their own show in a country, a nation state. I'm not sure that Raffles was aware of such an idea.
He never had to worry about whether the thing was a self-governing or whether there was a self to govern. The British governed it. You came, you do your business, make your money, go back if you like, stay if you like. I had to make this place work. We were Chinese from various parts of China, Indians from various parts of India, Malays from various parts of the archipelago. We had to weld ourselves into one cohesive society, so that this is not a hotel, this is a home. That's different.
The story of how Singapore made the journey from colony to nationhood is still being written. This country is only 40 years old. But at every twist and turn, the impact of Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles has been felt. He created a trading post in a jungle and gave birth to a modern city.